See from the title, I've decided to do a mushroom crepe with my pink oyster mushrooms. First I'm going to start making the crepes, and this is the day before I will be cooking them, I guess. Crepe batter should be refrigerated for several hours before you use it, and overnight is even better. I don't know quite why, but it always seems to work better if it's been refrigerated. I guess the flour completely absorbs all of the milk. I was going to say water, but it's milk. That's a cup of all-purpose flour. To that you add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm using sea salt, and you saw how accurately I measured that. These are a savory crepe. Basically any crepe, you just don't add sugar to them. But it has a few other ingredients. 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Altogether there is a 1.5 cups of milk, but you start by adding a 1/2 cup and beating to get a batter. So again, I'm not measuring that, this is roughly. And 3 eggs. 3 fresh eggs. My hens didn't do too well all winter, but they have started laying really well again this spring. There's 3 tablespoons of melted butter that gets added to this, but that won't be added until tomorrow when I make the actual crepes. Melt the butter and add it at the last minute. Of the milk, I guess. It says in the recipe that I'm following, which I just found online, if I can find it again, I might put a link down below, but it's pretty simple, you probably don't need a link. It says that they're using whole milk. I never have whole milk in the house, so I'm using skim milk, and I've made many crepes before with skim milk, so I know it works. The butter and the eggs, it's rich enough without having to use whole milk. That basically is the batter made. It will get a bit thicker, but it should only be the thickness of, say, heavy cream. This is supposed to make 8 9-inch crepes or so. But now I'll show you what I plan to add to it to make it an herbed savory crepe. When I potted up my herbs up in the grow room under lights there, they'll eventually go out into the hoop house in the garden, I put clumps of them in pots intentionally because when I thin them, I'll have a few fresh herbs to use, was the idea behind it. So I'm trying to leave the nicest plant there. Just pruning off the rest. This is Thai basil, which I've never used before, so I'm excited about trying that. I think that's probably the one I'd like to save over there. It looks quite large. And next to it here is chervil. And I have a jungle of plants in the chervil. I've grown chervil many times before. It has a lovely, delicate flavor. It's really nice to add to an omelette aux fines herbes, an omelette with herbs. Very, very good. Well, I won't make you watch me do any more. I think that's probably about all the prunings I'm taking from those anyway. This is some prunings that I just took off of my onion seedlings. They're in front of the glass door now, but they still need to be pruned back because they continue to grow kind of tall and spindly. At this point the greens on them are quite delicate, almost like chives. This is combined, the chervil and the Thai basil. Oh, the smell of the chervil coming up there is lovely. Now I'm just going to add those herbs to the batter. Hopefully in the refrigerator overnight they will impart a lot of their fragrance and flavor to the batter. And that is it until tomorrow, when we fry crepes and do the mushrooms. I love this bowl. I think it is Pyrex. Yeah, written right on the label here, Pyrex. But it has a very nice cover that fits on it very tightly. You don't have to try to get cling wrap or something to stay on. So be back when it's time to fry some crepes. Day 2 and time to fry the crepes. I was a bit concerned when I put this in the refrigerator, thinking about dicing up the herbs and putting them in there, that they might go black, because I know basil, if you don't use it immediately after you cut it up, will turn black on the edges, but evidently being in the batter prevented that. There's still a nice bright green. I've just melted 3 tablespoons of butter, unsalted butter in this case, I guess. I have the crepe pan ready to go over at the stove, so we will try frying some of these. Well, my crepe pan is just a carbon steel crepe pan, not non-stick. It doesn't have Teflon or anything on there like cast iron. It's the patina that builds up on the pan that makes it non-stick. Also the butter that's in the crepe batter, and then I'm going to lightly oil it with butter. I usually only do this the first time. It doesn't seem to need to be re-oiled every time you put another crepe in. First crepe is usually not the best one. Pan isn't hot enough or something, but I'll show you the first one anyway. If it's a flub, I'll go on and show you another one later on. Make sure the pan is good and hot. Don't have an accurate measurement. It's a cup ladle, but I'm not using a cup. Just enough to make sure that the entire surface is covered with batter. And actually, I might have put a little too much in there. It might have been better if it was thinner. Starting with the excuses already, just in case this one's a failure. You leave it on one side until you see bubbles, and it appears so it's pretty well cooked on the other side. It's like an omelet there now with the herbs in it. It's starting to cook its way in from the edges. I did use too much batter. Well, I don't know. Yeah, there it's still wet in the center. I'll be careful with the next one and won't put so much batter in, I guess. That's starting. Surface no longer looks wet, so I think it's about ready to try flipping it. Nothing fancy on the flip here. I'm not going to be throwing it up in the air or anything. Just get a hold of it, and there's the camera in the way. It doesn't help matters any. Yeah, that's alright. Starting to do some nice brown. It's basically pretty well cooked at this point, but you leave it for a minute or two so that the other side will get some browning like this. That center spot there, there's too much batter. I'll use less batter on pancake number 2. Yeah, starting to show some color on the other side. Normally it's just one flip, but I'm going to flip that back again because that center spot there is not done. I did get too much batter on it. That's better. I won't make you watch me do all of the crepes. I'll bring you back and show you the finished plate full. But that's crepe number 1 finished anyway. Let's see if I can do one with less batter. Stuff in the middle there. I think that's a bit less. I'll show you the finished product. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm always very surprised when a recipe makes what it says it will make. All those recipes that say they'll make 3 dozen cookies, I say, yeah, I'll be lucky, I might get 2 dozen out of it. But this recipe said it would make 8 crepes, and that's exactly what it made, was 8 crepes. So there they are, all in a stack. One side's darker than the other, I'll show you that. And now let's get on with cooking the mushrooms to go in the crepes. Well, I think that's everything assembled that I want to use. Obviously my mushrooms. This is a couple of tablespoons of minced up onion and a couple of small cloves of garlic. And as you can see, my garlic is starting to germinate. The green thing is growing out the center of it. Reminds me of a Jacques Pepin cooking program that I watched many years ago. I've seen many TV chefs say that you don't want to use garlic if it has that green sprout starting because that's bitter. And Jacques Pepin started to say the same thing and he stopped. And he said, no, I'm going to tell you the truth. I have tested it myself. He said, I don't see any difference. Use it when it's green or use it when it's white. So I take Jacques at his word. The mushrooms had sort of a, I wouldn't call it woody, but a tougher stem section where they were attached. And I cut that off, but I haven't cut them up any further than that. I suspect cooking in the sauce, they'll shrink down anyway. And I know they're going to change color. They're not going to be pink when we finish. I even read one website that said orange. Time will tell there, I guess. Olive oil, a bit of butter, salt and pepper, heavy cream. And I've got to take the thyme leaves off of these stems. I think I have 5, maybe 6 different kinds of thyme growing in the garden. And this one is just simply called French thyme, and it's the only one that had already started to grow new leaves in the hoop, so it's French thyme that we're using. I have German winter thyme, what do they call it, creeping thyme, which is really basically just an ornamental. It doesn't really have any great amount of flavor. Orange thyme and lemon thyme. I tempted to buy another orange thyme plant because I don't taste any orange in the one that I have. I think I got it from Richter's. I'm just thinking that maybe it got mislabeled. It had the orange thyme label on it because the lemon thyme has a very citrusy flavor. You wouldn't mistake it. It does have a lemon flavor to it, but orange thyme tastes just like this ordinary thyme does to me. Well, I think that's the prep work finished. Let's go over to the frying pan and cook these up. Let's start with the butter. I've just got this going on a medium heat. of oil as well, I guess. Okay. And now, everything that has the sort of the aromatics here, I guess the onion, the garlic, and the thyme. I'll just get that started cooking before I add the mushrooms. Moving. Nice fragrance coming off it already anyway. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to add the mushrooms. Didn't want the onions to get any color or anything, I just wanted to soften them. Here's all of my mushrooms added. Black pepper and some sea salt. Like I knew they would do, they have absorbed all of the butter already. Try not to add too much more. It is sort of turning an orange color, isn't it? That's going to be interesting. We're losing our pink. Disappointing. But that's the way it goes. I've grown beautiful purple beans, string beans. And when you cook them, they turn green, and nobody knows that you're serving them a purple bean. Just a bit more olive oil, I guess. Keep this going forever here, but I wanted to make sure that you saw them changing color. I guess we are seeing that. It is sort of an orange shade. Orange, or somewhere between a tan color and an orange, I guess. Well, I'll bring you back when I think these have cooked enough that I can add the cream. Well, I guess they're ready for the cream. This is a half pint of heavy cream. I think the package says 236 milliliters. Bought on the American side, so I'm surprised that it even mentioned the metric, but it does. Now I'm going to continue cooking this till the cream reduces and turns into a sauce, hopefully. I'll bring you back in a few minutes. It's mostly reduced. I'll let it reduce a little more. I'd forgotten that I wanted to add some Parmesan to it, so this is the point where I would add it anyway, I guess. Get it to melt, and helps to thicken the sauce a bit as well. They went to an orange stage, and now in the cream, well, they're not the pink that they were originally, but they are a shade of pink again, I think. So they are a strange thing when it comes to what they do with their color. Come back when this is ready to be plated up. Well, it thickened up quite nicely. Took a while. Now to see if I can roll it without making a mess, huh? The idea of bringing the ends in. Keep it a little tighter package. Now I'm going to do a second one, and then I'll show you what comes next. Hope it tastes somewhere as good as it smells. They smell delicious. Because I love mushrooms anyway, but these, in my opinion, are kind of exotic. I'm going to put a little mozzarella cheese on top and put them under the broiler for just a few minutes. Melt the cheese and sort of help to heat the crepes up a bit too. And then I will meet you in the dining room. I of course have cheated. I tasted some of it in the pan, so I already know that I like it. But let's cut into this and see what we've got here. These things have a nice mushroom in it. It is now, it's sort of a salmon pink. They were a very dark pink, and then they went that almost orange color, and maybe because they were cooked in the sauce, I don't know. They are pink, it's a salmon pink. And they are so good. I know I'm going to be asked if they taste like other oyster mushrooms. It's been so long since I've eaten oyster mushrooms that I really couldn't compare. They're certainly a lot better than those white button things that you find in most of the supermarkets around here. A lot of good mushroom flavor to them. And they didn't cook up so that they're all soft and mushy. They still have a bit of a bite to them. They're still they're tender, but they have some texture left, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The herbs in the crepes is very faint, but I can taste it in the background. Nice taste of basil, anyway, in the background. And the thyme that they were cooked with. Well, I won't keep this going any longer. You haven't got to watch me eat my entire meal here. Thank you very much for watching. I think you could probably, if this recipe interests you, you could do it with any mushroom. You don't have to do it with an oyster mushroom. Whatever your favorite mushroom is, you could give this a try. It's really quite tasty. I wouldn't call it low calorie with all of the cheese and heavy cream that's in it. But thank you very much for watching.